Hello, and welcome to the ABC History Podcast, where the weird history fact of this day starts with each letter of the alphabet. I'm your host, Skylar Bowery, who wrote and did the research for this wonderful episode. Before becoming the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln was born in Hardin County, Kentucky, even though his parents were born in Virginia. His parents died when he was only 10 years old. Well, at least his mom did. And him and his father moved to Indiana when he was only 8. He had lived on a farm for his whole life and made an extraordinary effort to attain knowledge while working on a farm, splitting rails for fences, and keeping the store at New Salem, Illinois. He spent 8 years in the Illinois legislature and rode circuit of courts for many years. His law partner said about him, his ambition was a little engine that knew no rest. But in his time in New Salem, he had something else that he did. Abraham Lincoln did wrestle as well as maintain a farm and a store. Lincoln had wrestled in his background and did a lot of wrestling when he lived in Indiana from the ages of 9 to 21. His uncle Mord had a real talent for it, and the most notable match occurred after he arrived in New Salem in 1831. This was against a man named Jack Armstrong. He was one of the most notable wrestlers in the day and also a leader of a local gang. It was almost like Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant back in the day, and it was spread by word throughout the town, and word spread quickly that the men were going to do a wrestling match like Abraham Lincoln had done countless times before. In the end, the two men shook hands, basically calling it a draw. But according to the rules, he, as in Abraham Lincoln, would have won the match due to his height advantage of 6'4" and also the strength that he had. But in the end, Armstrong and Lincoln became great friends and acted as Armstrong's son's attorney for a murder trial that turned a verdict of not guilty. He was honored with an award from the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in 1992. A Wrestling Hall of Fame. That is awesome. He ended up winning the presidency in 1860 and issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, which freed all the slaves from the Confederacy permanently. He ended up winning re-election in 1864, where he had planned for peace and to finally end the Civil War. But on Good Friday in 1865, John Wilkes Booth in the Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., he, as in Abraham Lincoln, was shot in the head, killing him. Wilkes had thought this would help, but it did not help the South win the war. But it did not help. But it did help the Union. The man of Abraham Lincoln was the man of trades, and talking of peace, and honestly, it would become an honesty and would become an attorney, senator, and president of the United States. It starts out with his more interesting and less well-known history of being a wrestler, and in the National Hall of Fame for wrestling. This is Skylar Bowery. Stay tuned for next week's episode, where we will be having the episode of the letter B episode.